Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee and Headlines, our daily get-together here live on Facebook, 10:30 in the morning every single day, where we share comments, headlines, news, ideas, topics, suggestions on how to have an awesome life here in Puerto Vallarta as an English-speaking community. As always, it is a pleasure to see you all. Today, of course, is Sunday, November 8th, and because it's a Sunday, it's our Sunday Funday, which means that we're going to have absolutely no news. Well, no bad news anyway. We're not going to have any bad news. We're all going to have a jolly old time in which we'll talk about irreverent things. Actually, no, that's not true. Today, we are not going to talk about much irreverence that we've scheduled, although you never cease to surprise me when it comes to coming up with topics and questions that you share through the program, which reminds me, if you have an important question, please feel free to add the letter Q before your question so that we know that it is important to you and will make it important to everybody else. And also, if you're new to these broadcasts, my name is Paco, and we'd love to find out that you're new. You can let us know by writing the word new in your comments or suggestions so that we can give you a proper welcome. So let's see who is here before we dive into today's show. I see that, Claude is here. I love Claude, and Claude knows it. He's such a nice human being. It's great to see you, Claude. It's great to see Mike from Chicago, and it's great to see Rod from Thetis Island, and it's great that says, oh dear, I know how to say this word. Hold on. Saskatchewan? I hope that's correct. Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan's in the house, and I hope I got the name correct. Palm Springs is in the house. This is great. El Centro's in the house. Wonderful. Plaza Dorada is in the house. Oh, wonderful. Great news from Craig Erickson. He went to Poblanos this morning. Breakfast menu was great. That's good to hear. I always get to miss breakfast because of coffee and headlines, but that's okay. I'm very happy to be here, and it's a good thing. Every Sunday, I hope for a return of Pickle Paco. The pickle has been absent, and I could almost invoke the pickle today, but I don't know. The pickle is feeling a little bashful these days. Maybe we'll have pickle at some point during the week. It'll be a pickle surprise. This is wonderful. Órale, Paco, Luna, and friends. ¿Qué pasó? Es Sunday Funday, says Kelly Adams. I love Órale, Paco. Órale. We have to explain Órale one of these days because it's one of our wonderful words in Spanish. Órale is delicious because you can use it for so many things. One of these days, we'll talk about órale. Let's see who else is here. Oh, Eric, those are such sweet words. Finally, a break from work to watch my favorite morning show. Well, today it's going to be all about music. So if you enjoy music, okay, I need to find somebody from Canada today that will give me the tea, because you're teasing me, guys. You're teasing me. San Mateo's in the house. This is wonderful. What is my best suggestion for brunch place in Versalles? What a great question. It is not brunch, and it is not in Versalles, but it is right next door to Costco. And it is one of the restaurants that's going on the map, Versalles for Foodies, and it's called Los Alcatraces. Los Alcatraces is a very traditional Mexican restaurant, and I keep staring at my regular camera. I'm sorry, I'm going to look at you guys through the other camera. Los Alcatraces is a very traditional Mexican restaurant, very, very popular. And while it's not your brunch kind of experience, it is a great place for Sunday late breakfast, early lunch. We don't necessarily call it brunch, but that's where I would go. That's where I would go. Let's see. Kathleen's hoping to become a regular at Poblanos. Well, I would be a regular at Poblanos if it wasn't for breakfast. I couldn't be a regular, but I will go back to Poblanos. In fact, we are scheduling and working on a special live broadcast from Poblanos because we've decided it is at Poblanos that we're going to sample this Taco Bell red wine that we have 2 bottles of. And what? Saskatchewan. I know Sasquatch. Okay, now you have me. Now you have me all confused, but that's okay. I can be deconfused this afternoon with my Canadian friends. Anyhow, I think we're all here. Let's dive into the topic at hand. And today, I thought I would keep it simple. And what we're going to do is we are going to discuss. Where did they go? Let me get myself in discuss mode. Here we are. Today, we are going to talk about 10 awesome YouTube music documentaries. Now, there are music documentaries everywhere, but the wonderful thing about these YouTube documentaries is that, number one, they are free to watch. They are online, so you can watch them anytime. And secondly, the wonderful thing about these music documentaries is that I'm not just going to be like a bad doctor and say, take this pill, call me in a day. We're going to go through each one of them one by one, and I'm going to tell you what it is that you are going to learn from each one of them and why I am recommending them to you. Some of them have to do with classical music. Some of them have to do with pop, rock music. So I'm hoping that in this collection, there is a little bit for everyone. And also, some of them are full-length documentaries. They last an hour, maybe longer. And some of them are just really short nuggets of wonderfully put together information. And I am in awe of these documentaries for several reasons. Number one, obviously, the subject matter is very dear to me. And number two, because I'm always fascinated as to how other people go about explaining things online. Of course, and I'll keep picking my nose because Luna and I, we have this love affair and we're always nuzzling at each other. And she remains in my nose. Okay, so here we go. 10 awesome YouTube documentaries in no particular order. And we start with Neil Sedaka's Laughter in the Rain. And this is actually, you're not looking at a photo of Neil Sedaka here. You're looking at an image of Adam Reeder, who's known as the Professor of Rock. He is a living encyclopedia of pop and rock music. And he has a series of programs on Facebook where he gets together with the original artists that produced great rock and pop songs. And he says, and he asks them, so what was going on when you recorded this? What was going on through your mind? And of course, Laughter in the Rain, you may like it or you may not. You may like Neil Sedaka's high tenor voice or not, but Neil Sedaka such a skilled songwriter, and he talks about how he wrote the music to this song. Lyrics were written by somebody else, and there was this other singer that came out with a version of it, and he was scheduled to release his own version on Elton John's record label, and he panicked because he figured, oh my God, if I don't put out my record really quickly, this woman is going to get all the accolades and not me. So he had to call Elton John on the phone and said, can you release it any sooner? And I'm not going to tell you the outcome of the story because that's what these documentaries are for. And again, this particular one of Neil Sedaka I picked because I like the song and I like Neil Sedaka, but there are so many great interviews that you would enjoy in the Professor of Rock YouTube channel. And again, needless to say, I'm going to give you all the addresses and all the URLs for all these documentaries so you can have them in the show notes. So that would be the very first one. Let's see what we have next. This is important. Why does everybody knock like this? The shave and a haircut. This is the story of why we all go bam, 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 bam when we knock the door. This boils down to, or goes back to a popular tune from God knows when, and it is explained in this little short documentary, which is absolutely fascinating. We remember that knock from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, in which Roger Rabbit is trying to hide somewhere and he cannot resist coming up with the answer, shave and a haircut. And the answer is 2 bits because it's something that is very common in cartoons. I will mention parenthetically that if you blow your car horn with that rhythm, you are in effect insulting whoever it is you're honking at, because that rhythm, the da 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 da, also coincides with chinga tu madre, which is about the most colorful, dark insult you can invoke in Spanish at somebody else. So if you hear horns going da 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 or da 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 da, it means that there's somebody really angry at the wheel. Don't ever do that. Next, we have, oh, this is fascinating. Look at how young this dude is and the way he puts together this awesome documentary about the Super Tonic. Now, don't be frightened about the Super Tonic. Why is pop music obsessed with this one note, the Super Tonic? Well, let us first identify what the Super Tonic is. You will learn about it on the documentary, but if you were singing Do Re Mi from The Sound of Music, it starts with do, a deer, a female deer. Re, the drop of golden sun, is the second note on the scale. The second note on the musical scale is the super tonic. See, it didn't hurt. Now, how do you know that you are hearing a lot of super tonic in pop music, and why? Even if you don't understand music harmony, when you see all the examples in this particular documentary, it's going to open your eyes. And again, you don't need to know anything about music theory, but this is going to be a wonderful, wonderful experience. And this is one of the really short documentaries. So don't think for a second that you're going to end up in a music appreciation class and it's going to be boring. None of these are boring, really. Let's see what we have next. Oh, yes. This is absolutely wonderful. How do 60 individual violins, violas, cellos, and basses transform into the lush sound of an orchestra string section? Who do they follow? Do they follow the conductor, or what makes them move together? This is what is answered in this beautiful documentary produced by the Philharmonia Orchestra in England. They have actually produced documentaries for every section of the orchestra, but the string section one is absolutely fascinating. And it is beautiful because not only do you learn how the string orchestra works and how it works together, but you also hear fragments of music from symphony scores in which you just hear the string section, so you hear it differently. So if you listen to a lot of classical music, you will appreciate the sound of these fragments of music that they're going to play without the rest of the orchestra being a part of it. And if you're not a classical music lover, or if you don't appreciate classical music, and you've ever wondered how it is that the string section, which is always at the front of the orchestra, how it is that they always bow in the same direction and all kinds of things, you get to learn this stuff on this documentary. And of course, once you've watched the orchestra string section, you will want to watch the one about the woodwind section and so forth and so on. It's a series of really beautifully put together documentaries. Moving right along. Oh, yes, this is absolutely beautiful. Mixing the Doobie Brothers. And this is beautiful because this is not the original mix of the song. And what I mean by mix of the song, I need to do a little bit of an explanation here. First of all, know that when a record is produced in the recording studio, more often than not, all the instruments are recorded separately in different tracks, and it becomes the recording engineer's job to decide how much of each instrument you're going to hear in the final mix. Very much like a chef decides how much of each ingredient is essential for the perfect recipe. So what you're looking at in this illustration here is what is now an old-fashioned analog mixing board, which is what you find in a recording studio. And you will find recording engineer Daniel Dusking break down the original master tape of the song and starts adding a little bit of this, a little bit of that, little by little, combining and adding all the instruments till he ends up with a mix or a combination of instruments that is quite similar to the original sound that we love and we hear on the radio. Now, why would you care to watch this? Well, simply to get a bigger and deeper appreciation of how the music that we enjoy gets recorded and gets put together and gets prepared for us to enjoy as a final product. Now, this is how pop music gets recorded. Not all music gets recorded like this. For example, classical music gets recorded with everybody playing at the same time. But this is a great example of how the pop music gets recorded. Next, what do we have next? Oh, yes, we have Glenn Gould. Oh, my God. Well, if you don't know who Canadian Glenn Gould is, he is one of the most extraordinary piano players, was one of the most extraordinary classical piano players of the 20th century. When his recording of Bach's Gould variations came out in the early 50s, he revolutionized classical music. First of all, the album he sold more copies of this recording than a lot of classical music albums were putting out. The work itself, his debut work, which was the Goldberg Variations, was not even a popular piece of music to record among classical piano players. And he was just absolutely eccentric and brilliant and weird, and there has not been a classical piano player like him. So on Glenn Gould, on the record, the documentary follows him to New York City, where we see him kidding with a cab driver, bantering with sound engineers at Columbia Records, and then alone with the piano, he fastidiously records Bach's Italian Concerto. And we get to sit at the recording session. We get to sit with him in the studio, and then we get to sit with him when he goes into recording booth, which is where the producer is looking at the score and saying, hey, Glenn, you fucked up this note, or maybe you could go a little faster, or so forth and so on. So this is a different type of recording experience. So you may enjoy it, you may not, but if you've ever listened to Glenn Gould's recordings, and he is notorious, one of the things that recording engineers have a really hard time, or had a really hard time with him, is he hums while he's playing. He hums, and through the documentary, you even see the producer say to him, "Okay, Glenn, this is the good take, so no humming," and it is absolutely fascinating to watch. Now, going to something completely different, I was there when house took over the world. This is house music, my friends. If you like house music, if you like dance music, this is where house music came from, and it came from the heart and soul of Chicago. Chicago, the city, not Chicago, the band. So in this documentary, Nile Rodgers and other legendary house artists and musicians discuss how disco died, and when disco's death comes around, it gave birth to the most iconic sound in dance in Chicago, and house music continues to prevail today. So even if you don't enjoy house music, even if it doesn't move you, this gives you a little bit of a perspective of what was going on in Chicago when all this music started being listened to, collected, danced to, and so forth and so on. It is absolutely brilliant. Moving right along. This is number 8. This is Stephen Sondheim's Company, the Company original cast and album documentary. There are several versions of this documentary out there. There are a lot of snippets out there on YouTube. But if you enjoy the music and the works of Stephen Sondheim, this documentary is probably one of the first times, if not the first time, that somebody decided to do a documentary of the cast, the original cast of a musical. And you learn interesting tidbits here. For example, I didn't know that it is traditional in the world of Broadway that once you open your show, the cast album is usually recorded on the following Sunday. Who knew? It is tradition. So, what is so special about this particular documentary? Well, first of all, just as in the case of the Glenn Gould documentary, we get to hang out in the studio. We get to hang out with Stephen Sondheim. We get to hang out with the artists that were involved, beginning with the wonderful Elaine Stritch, who we see here, and how she struggled so much with her lyrics and her delivery of what she was singing, and how after take after take after take, she's still not getting it, and the producers get frustrated and so forth and so on. But the ultimate result here is the most glorious look at how a cast album is produced. Now, I mentioned recently here on Coffee and Headlines that Criterion has put out the definitive version of this documentary. And Criterion is a company that makes whose business is to restore films to the most pristine version possible of any films. And apparently Criterion has put together, or will put together in the near future, the definitive version of this documentary. The one that I'm going to share a link for you to enjoy includes ongoing commentary by veteran Broadway producer Hal Prince and, of course, Elaine Stritch. And their commentary was recorded some 20 years after the documentary was made. So they go back and they recollect, they remember the details about the recording session. She talks about how much she was struggling when delivering the best performance ever. And yes, as Sherry Cooper is saying, Elaine Stritch singing "I'm Still Here" is absolutely wonderful. There are other versions of her singing this, but she is absolutely spectacular. Okay, so we have two more to go, and they are very, very dear to my heart. The next one would be what happens just before showtime at the Met Opera. Oh my God, this is a brilliant documentary put together by the New York Times. I don't think it lasts more than 12 minutes, but what it is New York Times decides to go backstage around the Met and Lincoln Center, of course. And they're walking around the Met with a Steadicam, which is one of those cameras that makes everything flow. And they are just going from the dressing room to the dance rehearsal hall to where the orchestra is rehearsing, to where the musicians are warming up, the dancers are stretching, so forth and so on. The people in charge of the costumes are getting them ready. And what is beautiful about this documentary is that it has no dialogue. No dialogue. The filmmakers put it together and they screened the film for a drummer to record a drum track for the documentary. And it is just, Goosebumps City right now. It is stunning. It is stunning. Even if you do not understand or appreciate opera, when you get to see the gargantuan, the mammoth, the ginormous effort that, and all the people that it takes to get to curtain call and to open curtain and to start an opera performance, it is absolutely mind-blowing. Highly, highly recommended. Well, everything in this list is highly recommended, but this just gives you such a humbling appreciation of the mountains of people required to put on a show. Then we wonder why the freaking tickets are so expensive. And the last documentary that I'm going to share with you is Sanborn Sessions with Michael McDonald and Brian Owens. Now, this has a little bit of explanation because, oh my God, I get so verklempt thinking about this. First of all, David Sanborn. David Sanborn is a wonderful jazz saxophone player who never even dreamed he was going to be a saxophone player. He had some kind of, I don't have the whole story fresh on my mind. Oh, prepositions on a Sunday. Who can deal with this shit? But anyhow, he had a growing up condition or disease, I forget what it was, such that a doctor recommended, you should play the saxophone. One of his arms is slightly shorter than the others. You should play the saxophone. And he became one of the most glorious saxophone players in jazz, particularly cool jazz and so forth and so on. Now, many years ago, he was the host of a music show that has been described as the greatest music show you never watched or you never heard about. It was on television. It was called Night Music. And what was wonderful about Night Music is that he would gather record producers to put together music segments with musicians that had never worked together before. And if you look for Night Music on YouTube, you will find a lot of his old episodes. And you see people like Chaka Khan working with an unexpected producer, or Ricky Lee Jones. I mean, all kinds of artists. Now, that was then. That was way back then. What Sanborn Sessions just happened during the pandemic. In Sanborn Sessions, David Sanborn invites important musicians, some of which he may have collaborated with in the past, and some he may have not. And he invites them into his own home recording studio. And they jam. They make music together. But what is beautiful about Sanborn Sessions, and there's a shitload of them on YouTube. I'm picking this one for a particular reason, and I'll get into that in a second. What's beautiful about Sanborn Sessions is that the quality of the sound, more goosebumps. The quality of the sound is meticulously guarded, such that Sanborn Sessions is a great documentary to watch with headphones on. So he brings in these musicians that may or may not have worked together and recreates some of their most amazing hits. And in the case of Michael McDonald, of course, they record a new version of Minute by Minute, his iconic song. And Michael McDonald, after all these years, he still has it as a keyboardist, and he still has it as a vocalist. And in certain conversations that they have through the documentary, they talk about what happens to the instrument as you grow older. And they commiserate over the fact that there's certain notes that just don't happen anymore. And what I find the most humbling about this particular documentary is the way musicians can communicate with one another, and the nonverbal communication that goes on when live music is performed. It simply cannot be imitated, particularly with musicians that speak the same language and that have trust in one another and have admiration in one another. And that is what makes this particular edition of Michael McDonald and Brian Owens. Brian Owens is a much younger vocalist. He's a well-known rhythm and blues vocalist today. And it is so fascinating to see how in parts of the documentary, Brian Owens is singing the lead of another song of his. But then when it's time to record Minute by Minute with Michael McDonald singing the lead, obviously, then Brian Owens and this other lady who's another background vocalist, they step back. So there's no ego. There's no ego in this notion of, well, I'm not going to sing background vocals for you because I am a superstar. Nothing of the sort. So this, my friends, is my collection of wonderful YouTube music documentaries that I've put together for you to enjoy this afternoon or in the near future or whenever you feel like, or don't watch any of them. But if you watch any of them and it really touched you, I look forward to hearing some of your comments in the next few days. With that said, let me take a quick look at your comments from today. I'm sorry I just went blah, 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 and I didn't stop to acknowledge you. But this is something that means a lot to me. Let's see. Sedaka made Brian records. Absolutely. Absolutely. Kathleen never knocks like that. It drives her nuts. It drives me nuts too. That is a sweet thought. Thank you very much, Claude. Mwah. let's see. Um, it is food. It's like music. Absolutely, chef. Absolutely, and we take it for granted. Sometimes we consume music and we consume food at restaurants. Um, and there are times to just eat because we're hungry, and that's good. And there are times to just listen to music in the background, and that's okay too. But if we give ourselves, or when we give ourselves the opportunity to look at the context of how music or food are created, when we learn a little bit about the challenges in the kitchen or in the recording studio or in the practice room, or the context, the historical context in which music is produced, then it is easy and wonderful to gain more knowledge and appreciation for the act of creating music. At least that is my experience. Let's see, mixing it up some more with house. I think house music is great for cleaning, actually, and house music is great for the road. When you're driving on the highway, it is just absolutely wonderful. Uh, what? Wow. Wow. Oh, I bow in your general direction. I had no idea that he had a family or anything. I would love to hear more about that. That sounds absolutely wonderful. Um, let's see what else. Suzanne, I believe, or I imagine you're still in the Northwest, but everybody know that Suzanne is not only a dear friend of mine and a great music appreciator. Suzanne is a member of the Vallarta Vocalista Ensemble, which is a local a cappella group that gets together when they're all here in town and they perform, and they are absolutely brilliant. Suzanne and her husband are also my dear accomplices. Is that a word in English? No. Is that a word? Hold on just a second. Um, Alexa, ¿cómo se dice cómplice en inglés?
Cómplice en inglés es accomplice.
Oh yeah, it is accomplice. She and her husband are my accomplices. When we go to Guadalajara to listen to wonderful symphony music, we always run into them at the concert hall there. So that is always wonderful. I hope you're doing great, Suzanne, and I hope you will coming back. You're going to be coming back to Puerto Vallarta sometime in the future. Um, Hey, Tim Fan. I'm sorry I missed you the other day at Hotel Mercurio. I'm going to be there this afternoon. If you see me, please stop by and say hello. I would love to say hello and meet you and just say hi. Let's see. Dee just arrived and would love to have a drink with me. I would love to have a drink with you, Dee. Let's see if our paths coincide. If they do, that will be wonderful. If not, I think your wish is absolutely wonderful. Um, this is interesting. I don't know Daryl's house. Thank you very much for that, Joe, because this is something that I'm going to check out because I used to love Hall and Oates. I still do. I used to think they were both really sexy. I always wondered who I wanted to shag. Oops, outside voice. I'm sorry, but that's just me. Oh my dear. Oh. Let's see what other comments. Amazing collection. Did I make the playlist? I did not make a YouTube playlist, but what I will do is I will share the link of each and every one of these documentaries in the show notes today. And I hope that you will enjoy them very much. And again, I would love to hear your reactions to them because when you take the time to share your reactions to them, you give me a sense that this actually means something to you, and I really that is very nurturing to me. Dun, 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 dun. Bring back my birthday series, please. That would be so much fun to do, Eric. For those of you that don't know, I used to do a series of birthday performances at the Palm, where we would celebrate the birthday of important musicians on their birthday, and we would create a musical program that was edutainment, where we would perform music by these birthday people. And who knows, maybe this will be a good year to bring that series back. We'll see how things develop for performance venues. Things are still kind of everybody's starting decide how they're going to handle the season and whether people are going to come or not. It's still, I think, a very fragile and vulnerable place for most of the music venues in town, but we're sending good vibes for everyone that is trying to recover from the pandemic, and we're sending good success for everyone, whoever they may be, involved in all the different music venues in town. Let's see what else. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Hey Paco, how come your intelligent speaker doesn't translate? I'm not sure. This is something that you need to check with your intelligent speaker or with Amazon. Mine, I have an interface with mine in Spanish because we're here in Mexico. It is connected to Amazon Mexico. I try to convince I try to convince her that she is American, and she just had a nervous breakdown. So she is happy thinking that she's Mexican. So I'm not sure that I have a good answer for that. Oh, good. You had dinner at Siam last night. That is absolutely wonderful. And Kimberly asks, where is it located? Well, they have a Facebook page. They have one in Emiliano Zapata, and they have one here in Los Tules near my house. So anyhow, this was Coffee and Headlines Sunday Funday edition. I hope you enjoyed today. I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned something. I hope you were inspired. Tomorrow, of course, we go back to the news, and we go back to COVID, and we go back to all kinds of things. And I would like to voice a personal wish for myself and for all of us here in the community. Tomorrow, we begin the journey as we look forward to a different White House. And I think it will be a good opportunity for us to see just how compassionate and how much empathy we have for those people that were not supporters of the winning ticket, for those people that are tired, quite frankly, tired of hearing about the U.S. election, and how much respect we can show to the people that are not having a good time with the results of the election. They are as important as anybody else. And so just keep that in mind as we move forward through Coffee and Headlines, as we move forward through our interaction with people out there. Okay, I'm done. Have a great Sunday. Have fun today. Do something wonderful. And tomorrow, as always, we come back with news about COVID and all that other shit that we're not going to think about today. Have an awesome Sunday.